Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Barn Owl in watercolour. So, in the first section, we started to develop the eyes, and then on this disc shape of the face here, we've put some base layers on, as you can see, where we've got the shadows forming, and also on the top of the head. But these are just base layers. So now we're going to start and build up some detail. So, looking at this, I'm going to have a look here, we've got some dark patches coming down here, we've got this dark patch here to attend, and then we've got his beak here, and the shadow areas around here, and get some of this detail in. Now a lot of this area is white, and if you look, it's where it crosses over, so we will be adding more detail to that and around these eye areas later on with a little bit of gouache. So gouache it's a water-based paint, but it's a lot more opaque than watercolour, because white watercolour isn't really very good. So I tend to use the Winsor & Newton designer gouache white, permanent white. So I do use that on watercolour paintings when I have to put something that's really bright white showing. So let's start right up at the top of this head. Now let's have a look. We've got sort of some bluey grey patches. So at the top we did do so if you can zoom in and just have a look at what the base layers were. Move it down slightly. We have got like a purpley grey area here coming into this brighter browny colour, and then going in towards the disc of the face. Okay, so we're going to start up that section here. So I'm looking, basically, when you look at something and you're going to tackle it, you want to be looking at shape, direction of form, and the shape and the hue, and then the tone of the hue as well, because you'll have light tones, dark tones and mid tones. Now on the owl, let's have a look, see if I've got, where's the picture? I've just had the picture somewhere. Oh, here he is. So on the reference bit, I've just cut this piece out because it makes it easier to move around here. So as you can see, it's got this purpley grey colour at the top, and then we've got this sort of orangey brown. It's like a burnt sienna, which is a reddy brown, and then we've got some more dark umber browns here as well. So the burnt sienna has got some lighter hues and some mid tones, and then we go into by adding darker tones. We make them a lot darker, and then obviously he's got this speckled effect on his feathers as well. And here, if you look right at the top here, where I've sort of lifted out some colour, we can put some gouache in there, but we have got some sort of detailed little feathers that come out from the edge of the disc, so we need to try and capture those as well. So the first bit I'm going to do is I'm going to add another layer of this this purpley hue, and I'm going to sort of I'm going to use the number 1 brush. I'm going back to a small brush, and I'm only using, small amounts of paint. I don't want to sort of overbear this, and what I'm going to do is, looking at it, I'm looking at the shapes, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tap this paint around that area in the shapes where it is, and try and create roughly where this colour goes, and keep watching all the time on your reference photograph in which direction the feathers are going, so the paint wants to go in that direction as well. So this is more of a stippling motion for this, right? So I'm going to stipple that, because I'm using a wet on dry technique and not a wet on wet technique for this. Okay. I'm going to keep my reference piece there with me, so I can see we've got Where it goes lighter, you just need to add a little bit more water to it. So where I've got my paint, I've got one side that's a lot thicker and the other side where it's a lot lighter in tone. So I've watered it down slightly, but I'm still stippling. And I'm coming out of the darker area with this lighter, slightly lighter tone of this colour and mixing it in also at the top. It comes just across the top basically. So we'll go right across this top area, top of his head. Then it gets a bit light around here. Okay, stippling it still. I'm using the point of the brush, just stippling round. And the shape comes down to about here. So I'm just stippling that area in. Okay. So it is slightly darker on this side than it is on this side. Not a lot, but just a bit. Okay, and then some of that. So now I'm just going to dry the brush off a little bit and then just soften in some of these edges here, where it sort of mingles in with the, where it starts to mingle in with the reddy browns on the head. But I am making sure that I'm going in the right direction every time. Okie dokie, so now we've got some bits of detail in on there. We can come back and add some more colours in later or darken them up where we need to, but we've got that bit on the top of the head. Just slightly here, a little bit darker. Okie dokie. Now then, the next one. We've got, so this is where I need to mix up. So I'm going to use some burnt sienna. Okay. A bit of burnt sienna, but it's actually a bit too bright, is that? So what I'm going to do is I've got burnt sienna. I want to tone it down slightly, so I'm going to add a little bit of brown umber. Going to get my another little strip. Just put that on there and put it against the reference, so you can see that's more or less, that's ideal for sort of mid-tones. So once I've got the mid-tone, I can darken up and I can lighten up as well. So let me just make a bit more of that pink. So I'm going to be using a lot of that colour. Okay. So, yeah, that's that colour. And what I want to do is I'm just going to take a little piece of that, pour it into the well next to it. So this is why I need to make quite a bit of this colour. Okay. And put it in 2 more wells. And then add a little bit of water to one of them, so that it lightens the colour slightly. So again, just clean my brush off, mix that in with the water, put that on my tester. So you can see that is a lot lighter, and then I can put that against the light colours on the reference, and it's more for the light colours. And then the only thing we've got left to do then is the darker colour, which for that one I'm actually going to add a bit more of the burnt umber, because it is more of a darker brown. It's hardly got any red in it at all really. So let's have a look and see if that will match. Yep, so I think that would be, I mean, we can even add a little bit of the blue into it. Okay, so they're my 3 tones. So what I've got here, I've got the light tone, the mid-tone, which has still got a reddy brown, and then that's more of a burnt umber brown on its own. Okay, so once again, I'm going to use the number 1 brush to start with. In fact, no, I'm going to go to the number 4. See if I can start with the number 4. If not, I can always go back. So I'm going to start with the light tone first. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is put on the dab pad, and then again doing the stippling, go round and over some of the purple areas, and then as it's coming down to where these white ones are, look at the shapes of the edge, because there are some little feather lines in there. So you dab them in. So this is the lighter of the tones. Okay. Again, stippling, using the stippling motion. Leave some of the gaps because we've got this base layer on there that makes it look a little more, that's, you know, quite light, so that'll make some of the areas look even lighter. And then, as I say, try and shape some of these edges of the, where you get some of the white feathers, not so many on this side. There's one or two, there's one there. And then stipple using the brush, nib of the point of the brush. Just stipple that in, crossing over into that purpley grey area that we did first. Okay. And then as we come over here, again, always make sure you're going in the direction of form. Okay. And then also I'm just going to put some of that, so underneath here, underneath those whiter edges of the feathers, we've got some different feather marks here as well, so make sure we get those in. Okay. And these will be darkened up as well where they need to be. There we go. Okay, so we're starting now to see the colours form on the head. Okay, so we've used the light tone, so now we're going to go into the mid-tone. Again, I might just put a little bit more burnt umber in there. And I may also just water it down slightly as well, so it's not quite as dark. Again, dabbing the brush on the damp pad. Now, what I'm looking for now is around where these white sections are, I'm stippling again with the point. Now, because I don't want it to look, if you want a really dark area, then you put your stipples really close together, and then as you move out into a lighter area, you spread them out a little bit more, so it makes it look. So as I'm moving out of there into the lighter area, but here it's a shadow from underneath of where the white tips of the feathers are. And again, I'm looking at the direction. Okay, and then where I can see any of these mid-tones, I'm just going to stipple some of these in. And if you can see exact feather shapes, then, you know, try and put those in. As I say, that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking for the hue, the form, direction of form, and the actual shape of the feather. So here we've got quite a bit of darker or mid-tones going on here. In fact, they're going to be some darker tones. So I'm actually just going to stipple quite close together here because it's quite a patch of mid and dark tones. Okay, and then so each time I'm leaving some of the gap, it's where the lighter tones are coming through. Okay, and here we've got some of the mid tones. So we have got mid tones here as well. Okay. Following the shape of form. I'm leaving some gaps so that the lighter sections can get through there as well, because we have got lighter areas. Okay. A bit there that joins up. So keep checking your reference photograph. I mean, I do use my iPad, but for this one particularly, I've just cut it out and it's here so that I can actually see where I am working. Okie dokie. So now I'm just going to clean my brush again, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently soften some of these areas down, pulling the colour this way so that we have got, so it doesn't just go direct into white and we haven't got any really harsh lines. And same on this side here. So we're just softening away this area because the feathers do disappear to a whitish colour, but they have got a bit of colour in them. So by doing this, that's what we're doing. Okay, and softening there. Okie dokie. So now we're going to put the dark tone in. Then we'll put some of the black markings in, and then we'll put the white gouache in that area. So that bit then we can look at. So now I'm going into the more or less burnt umber. I've added a little bit of blue into it to make it darker, that's all. And now all I'm looking for is the really dark sections. So some of these will also have sort of black areas as well, but there are some tonal changes, so I'm putting some of the browns in, because if you just put a black in, it's just going to become harsh. And also this is where the shadows are building up from where the white feather tips are. If you look here, we've got this bit that comes right up here that's quite dark. Get a little bit of darkness up here where the white tips again. And we've got some darker sections just here. Just space them out if they're not too. Plus the stippling effect with the owl, if you look at the way the feathers are, it does look like they're stippled on. Okay, so that's that bit. So, oops, the really dark that I made, so what you could do with this, like I said, you could use a lamp black, but we don't want it to look flat. So if you're going to use the lamp black, use the lamp black, but add in some of the burnt sienna, just so it gives it that warmer black feel. So it's not totally black. There isn't such a colour as total black anyway. So I'll put lamp black with some burnt sienna. And then what I'm going to do is I'm looking where all these black tip markings are and try and put in, you don't have to put them in each definite one, but if you can get them in roughly the right places, but also keep an eye on, because as they move further away to the top of the head, they get smaller. So we want them to look as though they're in perspective. They are quite random in places. So be careful. Use the tip of your brush and just mark in some of these little black markings. Okay, and even in these white tips there are some. And then up at the top of the head they're a lot smaller. Okay. So you can see there how these shapes, they're quite random, but again, just keep checking your reference. You want to get them as near to reality as you can. Some of them have some definite shape and some don't, so just try and do like these have got definite shapes. They're coming up there, there's a roundish one or in that direction there, and then here we've got some that sort of come like that. So stipple them in. And you get smaller as they go up the top of the head. And a couple there. Got one there. And then we've got some little ones here. And got quite some definite shaped ones there. Okay. And then in this section here, we've got some that come round. By following the direction of form, it's going to help people understand which way the feathers of the barn owl are angled. Okay. Okay, so there we go. We've got more or less a lot of the shapes that are there. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how I work with the gouache, but I mean, well, I'll tell you what, no, we'll leave that for now. We'll do that later. Let's just move down slightly. So now we're round on the disc area of the face. So now we need to put in some more detail with that. So looking at it, like I said, we're coming now to these grey shadows. So again, we've got light, dark and medium. Now then, we've also got some... we've got this area that's coming down here that's dark, which is coming from the eyes. And again, it's a lot more burnt umberish than red. It's not got hardly any red or orange in it, so I'm going to use quite a bit of the burnt umber for this one. And then we've got the, if we use French ultramarine and burnt umber, we should get a nice warm, warmish grey for the shadow areas. Okay. Just add a bit more blue there, just to make the grey, and then just add a little bit more water so that it's not as heavy. So let's have a look for the shadows. Right. So here's my piece of paper. So looking at the reference for I'm looking at sort of darkest tones of grey. Yep, round about there. There are some lighter ones. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm taking some of that darker grey and I'm just actually adding in just a touch, just a little touch of the rose madder. I'm just wondering if that will... So if you look carefully, it does warm it up slightly. And if you look around his face, because of the reflection, it's got a little bit of the colours in there that off his other feathers. It has got that tinge there, so we have got that reddy colour there. So I've got some of that mixed up. And then, as I said, we've got the burnt umber on its own, so let's just add a bit more of that. And a bit more water. Okay, and that'll do for his beak. His beak is it's a little bit bluer, so I'm going to make sure I've got plenty of blue in there. It's a bit more cooler looking is his beak. So yeah, so I've got some blue in there, so it's a bit more of a bluey grey, like that, for his beak, which is down there, which is that colour. Yep. So I've got my colours there. I've got them all mixed up. So again, let's start. I'm going to start with this number 4 brush because it's got a nice long point on it, but I may need to change to a smaller brush. So clean water, dry, damp, take some of the water out on the damp cloth, and then I'm going to start with this, the grey, the lighter grey, dab it on my dab pad, and then I'm looking now at the reference here from the eye, so let's move that up. Okay, so I'm working now around this eye area, and this time I'm doing some sort of linear strokes coming out. So if you put the brush on and then flick it away in the direction of the feathers, you should get a nice smooth where it tapers off at the end. So in other words, you don't want to be doing that because you're just going to get a line. So what you need to do is flick it off so that the fur bit just disappears at the end, the feather bit. Okay, but make sure you get them in the right direction. So you may need to move your paper around. So they come up here. And try and just do them randomly. Some are close together, and then as you come out, just sort of soften them off again. we can soften all this area off in a little while with a what we just call a water glaze, and that will soften these off. But where they're really sort of here around the eye, there's quite a bit of shadow. Just make them quite close together and a lot more of them, so you can see the shadow building up just there. And it comes down here. Flicking off again. Then it sort of turns into, if you look, this is where we start using the one that's got the bit of more red in it. So continuing on from there, okay, and then if we look, that's coming into this area here, and that comes down here. Okay. Hook some of those off there. Now this comes down here, comes down to about there. And if you look at your image, your reference image, you can see that we've got some. So it's sort of, they've got the reddy tone, which is there, which is darker on that side. But then it flicks out here and comes out into a bit more of a lighter tone. Okay, and then we've got some of these. Now they're a bit more spaced out, but again, just you're hardly touching the paper, and you're just putting these on very random, like that, coming out of here. The odd one sort of comes over, and so you've got to sort of imagine the owl's, the shape of the owl's face and how it's sort of curving. So that bit there will curve in and out like that. Okay, and then just keep down here. There'll be a mixture of the grey and the redder grey. So you just need to do a mixture of those, and look at the length of what you're doing them as well. Make sure you're getting the length correct. Okay, a few couple bits up here. So you're just looking to make some small markings. Now we have got a few bits of cross-hatched ones here, so I'm actually just doing a bit of cross-hatching just there. Okay, that's where some of the feathers just slightly cross, and then down here it starts to get very, there we go. So you can see there, let me move this up slightly, we're losing what I'm doing there. So you can see down the bottom here, I've done these feather markings, but I've also done a bit of cross hatching. So in other words, I'm going in the opposite direction there, just to give you the, if you look, you're getting this sort of, if you look there very closely, you've got some sort of cross hatch markings. So and then what we're going to do is we're going to put some glaze on there in a bit. Okay, so following that round here at the bottom, it now turns back into the more grey colour, and we've got a bit of darker bits here. So just keep looking where the darker sections are, mark those in as well. That's his beak. And then here we've got some of these greyer ones coming here. And then where we've got the really dark grey, if we look, sort of push them in to there, because that's where the white feathers are going to come across. And then it sort of disappears up here. And again on that side, using your point very carefully, push them in to where the white feathers are going to come. And then as it comes down here again, it starts to get, there we go, so you got some of the, and then here is where the beak is. So you've got a little bit of solid colour here, but then it tapers away back up there. So we'll have some white gouache over the top as well. Okay.